Carry on.
Okay.
Let's tell everybody there is home.
I will be back.
No problems.
Back in the room.
Okay. Just so you know, that created an enormous hum putting those headphones down wherever you did.
Yeah, there's something about this. This should probably have an effect as well. Oh, maybe not. There's something about the earthing or grounding on this laptop, I think, but also maybe it's just because I put the microphone on top of. Yeah, I put the microphone on top of a tablet. Might not have liked that.
Uh,
Oh well. Well, null modem says hum gone, and that's good enough for me.
yep, it should all be good now.
Yeah, as long as I don't touch it. Is it back now?
Nope, it's fine.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, actually, no, I know what it happens when I plug it in. I keep telling myself I don't really care about what happens with this laptop because soon I will buy a new one, but it keeps on just not wearing out, so I never do.
What is it?
It's just an M1 MacBook Air, but it's
Well,
still
perfectly good.
perfect. Yeah,
M4 Air is a thing of beauty.
it is, but I don't have any performance issues whatsoever with the M1, so it's very hard to.
No,
it's
I mean, I've got an
impossible to
M2
justify.
Air 24 gig, and it's my kind of daily driver. It's the 14-inch, so it's great because it goes into a motorbike pannier or bag or whatever.
Hmm.
And if I want big screen and I'm away, then Vision Pro just gives me a 12,000 pixel wide virtual screen.
Yeah, well, that's not on my shopping list, but yeah.
Should be. Go into
it's-
the Apple Store and try it.
What's the best possible outcome there? A phone call from the bank manager.
Your wife killing you.
I don't know. She might be glad it's gone on that rather than guitars for a change.
Well, there you go. You see, we're working on a plan here.
Mm.
So no, but the new Airs do full speed Wi-Fi 6E. They will do the 1.8 gig a second throughput.
Yeah.
But I'm hanging fire for Apple's Wi-Fi 7 implementation,
Mm.
which will be on their silicon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because I've just been writing myself a feature about next gen interconnects, and there's that touches on wireless interconnects, and the fact that Wi-Fi 7 hasn't remotely begun to fulfill its potential yet, which is quite frustrating.
Well, most MLO implementations are shite.
Yeah, but all of the ones I've seen are just.
I've got a
utterly
mesh here
pointless.
that does do MLO between the mesh units.
I think I might. Is that? No, I don't remember now. There was an Orbi that did that. I think.
But it's 2.4 and 5 gig only. It doesn't do 6 gig
Do you mean it doesn't do 6 gig on
At
client
all.
side? Oh,
at
okay.
all.
Is it a Netgear?
It's not a Netgear. No, it's something else.
That's it. Netgear's the only one I've seen that does that.
Oh, Christ, we're about to go. What version number is
Yep.
this?
Do you mean episode?
Sorry, I
number?
mean episode number.
Let's have a look on Captivate. Da-da-da-da. 739.
Right, are we, is everybody... Yes, Michael dear, one more than last year. Last week, who would have guessed?
1 o'clock.
Are we ready to go?
So ready.
Good afternoon and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. Today's date is Thursday the 24th of April 2025 and this is episode 739 if all of our counting has gone correctly. I think I even had to take my socks off then to get up to the high number. So we have a very packed day today and with me today I have Darren Graham-Smith
Hello there.
and I have Roshan Horner. Because you know I can never say your
I
surname.
did. That's fine.
I will apologise right now because I just
Did I
keep
tell
getting it
you?
wrong.
Did I tell you the worst version of my name was said
No.
by Margaret Beckett? So can I just stop
Oh,
you
go
there?
for
So
it. Go for it.
So I was in the House of Lords and Margaret Beckett got my name and she said, and now we have Dr. And I thought, she means me. So I just proceeded on that
Yes.
basis.
It's
And I was not wrong.
in the horn or something along those lines, which is just a little fine. Okay, excellent. We've got an awful lot to get through here, so let's kick off. And the first thing, just because I'm feeling in a me mood today, is with me, and it is the EU. The EU is starting to bare its teeth against American tech companies. Now, we might say that this is all, so many years too late, and they could have done an awful lot before, but at least they're kind of getting there now. Now, the European Union has been investigating a number of the big global-sized tech giants for compliance with the EU's rules, and it has just issued some fines, which is a nice way of raising money. I like to issue fines. So they have told Apple and Meta that between them they've got to pay 700 million euros. 500 million euros, which is 428 million, is to Apple, and Meta has to come up with 200 million, 171 million pounds. So it's 200 million euros, 171 million pounds. And there's various things tied into this as to why it's come about. As you can imagine, obviously, both Apple and Meta are not pleased, and both are saying, well, we've done what you told us to do. What do you mean you're not happy? And in a sense, that has a slight bit of validity, because you could argue that the way the EU does this is as you would expect, which is to say, you must be compliant. No, we won't tell you whether your proposal is compliant. We'll tell you after you've done it whether we think you're compliant or not, and then turn the screws on if they think that it's correct or not. So there's an element of sort of back and forth that's inevitable on this. So what are the problems? So the problem is that they don't like the way that Apple has implemented its third-party app store. And one of the things they don't like, I mean, as you remember, Apple has enforced the use of Apple's own app store up till quite recently, but the EU forced them to allow a third-party app store within the EU, which they did. But Apple also turned around and said, well, okay, we'll do that, but there's costs to Apple involved in doing this, because Apple has to digitally sign and verify and digitally sign the apps that go into the third-party store. Now, we can argue whether that should be the case or not, but Apple's view is if it goes on the Apple platform, users are demanding that there is code checking and validation and control, even though you may have purchased or downloaded the app through a third party. And Apple have said that to cover this cost, it's not unreasonable for them, they say, to make a charge, and they have imposed a charge of 50 cents per download after the first million downloads of your app in a year. If you are a developer putting out a free app with no purchase component, then there's no fee. So you can use a third-party store, put your app into it, and download it as many times as you like. But if you're charging for it through the App Store, Apple says, well, they want to take effectively what I believe they call a platform fee for doing this. And the EU is saying, no, you can't do that. So that's where that current battle is kind of sat. They do say, the EU have said, I don't have the precise wording in front of me, but along the lines of, this is bad for small developers. Well, I would actually have to say, if you're a small developer and you've got more than 1 million downloads of your app and your customers are paying for it, then you've already got probably quite a few $1 million worth of income here. Because otherwise, you must be charging at least a few dollars or pounds or euros for the app in the first place. Anyway, that's going to roll on. The Meta fine is because Meta have come up with sort of what they call a consent or pay model, which said that users chose between either allowing Meta to take the data that it had harvested about you and combined it with other data like Facebook and Instagram, or you could pay a monthly subscription. And the Commission is basically arguing that that doesn't allow what the Commission demands, which is for you to opt out of being processed. opt out of your data to be processed. So these things are just rolling on. They're going to go backwards and forwards. They've got 60 days to comply. In the case of Meta, it seems that Meta already has a back and forth already underway, and the Commission has to report on that as well. So that's kind of what's happening in this space, and as they say, there will be pictures at 11 o'clock. What do you think, Darian?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's an awful lot to digest there. I mean, the first thing I've been just trying to understand is this Apple platform fee. If I were to write an app for iOS, I would already need to be paying the developer fee. That's as I understand it.
Well, there is $99 a year,
Yeah.
which gets you all the tools. It gets you the worldwide distribution platform on the Apple App Store. It gets you the credit card handling and all of that stuff, for which Apple does take a percentage of your app sales, but
Yeah.
that depends upon volume. I think it starts, is it 15%?
I
Or
honestly don't know.
It's free. If your app is free, it's then 15% up to something like $1 million a year sales, and then above that it goes up.
Sure. Well, I mean, the $99 a year is not going to break anybody's budget, but it is still a little bit irritating if if you just want to experiment, tinker with the platform, etc. What I was trying to find out was, however, if I make an app and then I choose to only distribute it via a third-party app store, does Apple still rake in a cut other than this signing fee that they have come up with? Do we know?
I think Apple doesn't take any money if it's sold through a third-party app store,
Okay.
but they do take a cut if your sales is above $1 million a year through that third-party. Sorry, 1 million downloads a year through that third-party
Okay.
store.
Yeah, like-
so
well, like you were
above
saying,
that,
so- yeah.
you then pay 50 cents or something like that per download.
Yeah, so the certification, is that the same as the certification fee you were talking
That
about?
is the certification fee, yeah.
Understood. Okay, well, I suppose, I mean, I'm not too rabidly opposed to, the one kind of wrinkle, it's like, you're listening carefully for where this thing perhaps goes off the rails, where Apple is trying it on, and for me, that is the fact that you can, thanks to the EU ruling, you can say, I'm going to install unofficial software from the unofficial app store because it's my phone, it's my right. But apparently you do not have the right to run unsigned code on your own phone. It seems like that's where Apple's drawing the line. And I'd be curious to know, I mean, I don't know the specifics, I'm sorry, I haven't read the small print of the ruling, but I wonder if that couldn't be seen as somewhat violating the spirit of allowing people to run what they want on their own phone, even if Apple has, they've got some pretty decent lawyers, if they've come up with a way of getting in some money that doesn't violate the letter of the ruling.
Well, to be devil's advocate here, there is the test flight platform for developers, which says you can put out your beta application to as effectively as many people as you like, and they can then download it and run it, host it through the test flight platform. And then there's no money and cost involved in doing that. But I accept that is a bit of a kludge compared to a pure sideload of a pure app. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that was my first instinct. It's my first response to that. On the Meta thing, I don't know, because I mean I think I know what all the Americans on social media, they're already saying, it's ridiculous that the EU wants us to do all the investment, the development, and then they want to get the benefits for free. And I do sort of see that if we're saying to Mark Zuckerberg, you can run Facebook by all means, but you're not allowed to do the very profitable data mining, and also you're not allowed to charge money to make up for the loss of revenue that you're getting by not doing the data mining. It might be that the actual answer is Facebook is simply not an ethically permissible service, and there is no way to make it acceptable. But I can certainly see why why Meta might balk at, might say you're not being reasonable here.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Roche? Hello,
Sorry,
Roche. What's
yeah,
your thoughts?
Hi, John. So I mean, it's a huge area, and we could be here all day. The one thing I would say is that you mentioned that I think it was Apple in order for them to be compliant, they would have to do the work, and that they couldn't go and have their homework checked essentially before before submitting it. There's a really good policy reason for that. What you would end up having is lots of commercial organizations who need to be compliant submitting half-cooked stuff and shifting the cost of their compliance onto the taxpayer. So there's an excellent policy reason why that has to be the case. And, you know, for companies like Apple or Meta, I'm not quite sure which one you were talking about, because there's been a lot to digest, as Darian said in this. You know, these are huge, like, wealthy organizations with deep pockets. If they want advice, they should just pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's this big problem between the platform, the development tools, the distribution model. I mean, if we go back to, you know, when I were a lad, if you wanted to put out your app, you bought the developer tools, and I will quite remember £420, I think it was, for Microsoft C compiler in 1990, and £420 for the Windows Software Development Kit. That's in 1990 money, so add that up for today. And once you've done that, yes, you can distribute your app. But what did that actually mean? It meant, you know, putting it on some floppy disks, putting it in a box, and trying to sell it through a retail channel. Because this was kind of pre-internet, pre-download, and so forth. So back then, things were very, very expensive, and that's why Word for Windows 1.0 in December 1989 was something like £425 for one seat. You know, today we've had an absolute revolution of dozens, sometimes even hundreds of apps that people have on their mobile device, and many of them are free. I saw some figures. It was something like 70 or 80% of app downloads from Apple's App Store are free. Now, that is a huge distribution, a huge distribution process that's in place just to even do updates and distribution of that app on a global basis. So, I mean, the world has moved on. There's no question that the world has moved on, and it's difficult to compare them with now. Certainly there's a lot of people who have made a lot of money out of app stores, both on Android and on iOS. So I think we'll just have to see how this one is going to roll forward. There's obviously clearly more room to wriggle on both sides. Next up, Roche, Anthropic have been doing some AI stuff.
Okay, if I can get through this without collapsing into fits of giggles, I'll be doing well. This is the story. So Anthropic says AI-powered virtual employees could be roaming corporate networks within the year, and that's from Jason Clinton, who's the CISO, speaking to Axios this week. Why does it matter? Because according to Anthropic, managing these AI identities will force companies to reassess their cybersecurity strategies or risk serious breaches. The big picture, says Jason, is that virtual employees might be the next AI innovation hotbed. Jason, where do I start? Okay, so I don't want to get all Supreme Court on everyone. Actually, I do. That is a lie. Because words like employee, women, spatula, they're meant to be interpreted according to their natural meaning. That's the point of language. So, now, does that mean I'm a big meanie? Depends on who you ask. So, let's take employee and let's define it. It's a person employed for wages or salary, especially at non-executive level. Person, not process, not Python script, not the things that lives in a Google sheet and answers your emails. The notion of a coded employee is where all of this goes off the rails. You can't be both a tool and an employee. That's like saying your paper shredder is the new head of compliance. So let me bring in the big guns.
That would work for some organizations, wouldn't it, you know?
I mean, listen, your CEO may be a tool, but your tool isn't the CEO. Come on, man.
Very good.
Thank you. Wait, be kind to your waitress. I'm here till Tuesday. So I'm going to bring in the big guns. So Rupert Cross, he wrote the book on statutory interpretation, and he gave us this rule: a judge must give effect to the ordinary or, where appropriate, technical meaning of words in their statutory context. And we've seen the Supreme Court very recently give a very plain vanilla ruling on what shouldn't really have gone to court. So suddenly, if we start to call tools employees, they would then get rights under the Employment Act. And we can see this kind of like craziness just sort of unleashing. And if we think that there's nobody out there that wouldn't want to take up a banner and like fight for the rights for, virtual employees, I don't think you're living in this world, man. I think you're living in another time somewhere else. So it's not hard to imagine like how this could go badly wrong. So where does the madness stop? Look, I love my language, large language model as much as the next person. It's a great collaborator, but it's not a person. It might be better than a person, it might be more helpful, but it's not a colleague, and the distinction matters. So what I did was I took pretty much everything I just said and I shoved it into ChatGPT and I said, is this rant hateful? And I swear to you, this is what my ChatGPT said. Nope, not hateful. It's a well-argued take on how definitions shape policy and practice. Drawing a clear line between humans and tools isn't discrimination, it's clarity. Also, I'm not crying, you're crying.
I feel though like
So-
if you're going to ask an LLM what it thinks, I mean, it's just going to turn out what it believes is a well-formed answer. I mean, you can't go looking there for if I wrote a well-crafted argument that black was white and fed it in, I'm not certain it would be able to refute my logic.
Yeah, the thing is we also have the Supreme Court's decision really recently on the importance of language and construing words to accord with their natural meaning. And we have the rules of engagement for statutory interpretation. And we've already seen how when a word is not well defined, it can cause problems in all kinds of areas that were unanticipated by people who don't know the first thing about the law, don't even play a lawyer on telly. I'm not saying that everyone needs to stay in their lane, but they need to be informed before they get into the argument. These are just the basic rules of engagement. So for the people at the back who haven't been paying attention, your printer isn't a colleague, your smart fridge isn't a colleague, your coffee machine isn't an employee, and yeah, the AI tool. And there are no virtual employees, because the very idea that a tool is also an employee breaks the definition of the word employee. So, everyone stand easy. We don't have to go to town for Clippy. He's not a copy editor. He's
Well,
just a tool.
but what happens here?
So-
What happens here when when some AI becomes a little bit sentient and argues back and says, "Hold on, I am alive."
They're not, though.
Ah, Darian.
Well, I mean, first of all, I was going to say we will come on to an AI-related story later, which might dig a bit more into whether we should be sticking up for AIs. But I also wanted to say that, I mean, I get what you're saying about the language that's being used, but there is a sense in which the language is a red herring, because the thing which is concerning, well, I suppose no, red herring is not quite right. It's not a red herring. It's a perfectly legitimate issue which we do need to, which as a society we do need to address. Fair point, absolutely. But also there's the question of, regardless of whether we call them employers or whether we call them tools, things are going to be acting autonomously on our networks, and that does bring up very real issues for, as the gentleman said, cybersecurity, and probably, well, this will again come up later, and then again probably in every podcast until the end of time, for your business governance and reputation and so forth.
But we have to make the distinction. So when we look at like information security, for example, we have people, processes, and tools. We don't have the tools where the people and the tools are the same. No, we've got them very distinct, and it's really important. And it isn't the fact that it's kind of like a human that will make it like a cybersecurity issue. It's just you're introducing a new tool. Every time you introduce a new tool and then you expand that surface, you have to kick the tires as you would with any part of your supply chain, whatever it is. That's just it. And it doesn't get patted down when it comes into the office. It gets treated like it's a tool. Right.
Well, that's
Not
true, but I think that a tool, an AI is qualitatively different to, as you say, a printer or a router, because it does act with a greater degree of less predictable autonomy. I mean, the thing about AIs and LLMs in particular is they are black boxes. We're having to deal with something where even the most, perfectly the most perfect flowcharts cannot reliably tell you what the AI is going to do in a given situation. And so there are new There are new things that new processes and new risks which people are going to have to think about. And maybe it's very quick and easy to do so, but they'd still have to do that.
I mean, yeah, you're quite right because we can all kind of work out what a laser printer does, or what a router does, or a payment system should do. I mean, we can probably start to argue about airline booking systems because those are just sort of taken on a level of complexity that fries your brain. But nevertheless, there is an explicit and an implicit understanding that this is a quasi mechanical device that's doing something with effectively predictable state in it. Now, whether that is true with something like an airline booking system, given some of the bookings I've had out of British Airways over the years, I think it is open to question. But when you're starting to talk about an LLM, it starts to become a lot more difficult when actually the people who are behind it really don't even know how it works. And I'm wondering whether there's quite a lot of people out there in the open AI world, etc., who are talking up the quality thing here because they really don't want to scare the chickens by saying we actually really don't know how this works at all, really, truthfully, honestly. Roche.
So what are you doing? Like, are you giving this AI the keys to your kingdom because you shouldn't be doing that anyway? Role-based access control. Right. So what is it that this thing is going to do that they think is going to cause the problem? What is it? Because it's still only a tool. Is it going to scrape all of the information and push it out in an email? Why would you be giving it all of the information? What's the purpose of it? And then what are your assets? And can it get your assets? I mean, it's so plain. Or will it be used as a vector by the bad guys? There's only so many ways that something can cause damage. So, like in this scenario that we're thinking of, because it's what damage do they think that this virtual I'm not actually going to engage in this tool. What do they think this tool is going to do? Because I absolutely agree, you need to do an assessment, right? And then based on that assessment you have to take some measures. It doesn't make it nearly human or a person or an employee. So that's the rock I'll perish on. Sorry, Darian.
Well, no, well, I was just, for example, one of my less edifying responsibilities is if you've ever downloaded, and I hope you have, the bonus software that comes with every issue of PC Pro, I handle the FTP server that you are downloading that stuff from. And I've often thought I would very much like it if I could get an AI to do the legwork of uploading the installers and updating the PHP files and so forth. In order to do that, I would necessarily need to give it the ability to create new folders on our server. In order to free up space, I would need to give it the ability to delete the old folders. And I mean, it doesn't take an enormous leap of imagination. In fact, most of us, I think, are old and experienced enough to have already had interns, colleagues, etc., do disastrously wrong-headed things, probably with the best of intentions, even hopefully when given the correct instructions, but when something has gone slightly unexpectedly. And I can immediately see, I mean, so there are, of course, so when you talk about employees, tools not being employees, liability issues come in, but also there is, of course, the question of just how quickly and how on such an enormous scale. What is it they say? To err is human. To totally screw things up requires a computer. I mean, that's true times 10 to the 6 in the AI age. So I can see. I mean. That's just one example off the top of my head from my own life, somewhere where I would be cautious of taking on an intern to help me do that. I absolutely refuse to get an AI to do it.
I agree. I think you're right. But I also think that we're never going to be in a situation where we displace the responsibility from the strategic, operational, or practical stakeholders that are in a business. So, for example, like the law applies to directors, and what's the law? They've got two obligations. They've got fiduciary, and then they've got competence. Your fiduciary obligation, promote the success of the company. Are you doing that if you're giving any tool free range to do whatever it needs to do and possibly break stuff along the way? You're really not. And then have you exercised care, skill, and diligence? Like, this is the law. These are the rules that you have to abide by. It doesn't really matter what tools come along. And there's never going to be a case where, like, we have to move away from this notion of that the tool is autonomous. At best, it's semi-autonomous, and that semi matters quite a bit.
Well, I think we're going to have to draw a line under this and move on to some other topics here, which actually still may actually be AI related here, because there's been some fun bits and pieces that have been happening. So we're going to call these a little sort of AI niblet section here of some short bits and pieces that seemed fun. Darian, with you.
Yes, well, you say we're going to draw a line under that story, but it's a very light and dotted line, because the next thing I'm going to say follows on directly from what we've been talking about, which is so there's an AI-assisted coding tool called Cursor, which was quite widely used, I believe. And someone a couple of weeks ago reported, someone who was using it professionally, that they'd found that when they were using it on one computer and they hopped onto another computer, the old session got logged out. And they went onto the chat support and said, this is a new behavior and it's causing me trouble. What's going on? And the chat agent replied, Cursor is designed to work with one device per subscription as a core security feature. That was the message they got. So they went on Reddit and said, has anybody heard about this? Sorry, I've just had a random pop-up appear. I don't know why. I will look into that. And said, has anybody heard of this this new restriction? Other people were saying, no, it's ridiculous. It's obviously some new thing. They're trying to screw us into paying for multiple subscriptions. Lots of people started cancelling and obviously like bad-mouthing the company online. And then, where do we have exactly? Yes, somebody from Cursor heard about this and hopped on and explained, hey, we have no such policy. You're free to use Cursor on multiple machines. Unfortunately, this is an incorrect response from a frontline AI support bot. Yes, in the way of LLMs, when asked for an answer, the AI had simply invented one, hallucinated one, as we politely say, and that had caused quite significant damage on a small scale, but very much undermining the reputation and the credibility of the company in question, which, as has been pointed out, ironically, is one that is supposedly leveraging AI to help people do things faster and better. So they've issued an apology. They've refunded the. Do excuse me, it's just a plane passing overhead. The joys of living outside of the big city. So they've issued an apology. They have refunded subscriptions for those who took out extra ones, and they've committed in future to labeling AI-generated responses as not coming from a human and being potentially unreliable. But yeah, it's not a good look for these AI quote employees.
Yes, it's going to be fun, that one, isn't it? The next one is there's a report come out suggesting that Russia is deliberately trying to seed chatbots, LLM chatbots, with misinformation. And the claim here is that they are building websites and content which basically has no human readers, but is designed to be scraped by the search engines and the LLM training engines, and that this information is then being sucked up into the training data and is being deliberately used to effectively poison the underlying data set. Now, I've actually been reading on this. I could understand that state actors like Russia or North Korea or whatever would be actively trying to do this. It kind of fits the narrative. But there are actually also people out there who seem to be deliberately trying to do this themselves as little working groups to try to inject stuff. They found that noise can confuse music recognition and deconstruction sites and so on and so forth. So this is an interesting area where we will see more happening. The question is, as always, to do with anything around this AI scraped data, training data stuff, is how do you trust the source, and do you know where the source came from? And how do you know that there hasn't been some deliberate attempt to deliberately make the process worse, and how would you know? Darian, we were talking about fake employees, or the definition of an employee at Anthropic, but actually, it's got a bit further than that, hasn't it?
It has. This is the headline that's been doing the rounds is a very kind of entertaining and attention grabbing one, which is I think it was Business Insider co-founder creates AI assistant, then immediately hits on it. The reality is a little bit more nuanced than that. But basically, the guy, by his own admission, Henry Blodgett, he published on Substack his experiences with trying to set up, using nothing more advanced than ChatGPT, which admittedly is very advanced, set up a virtual sort of group of employees. I think it was a virtual newsroom with different personalities, different AI agents having different responsibilities and characters. And he started, working with his virtual team and found it was going very well. And I think the leader of the team, the spokesperson, was somebody who I think he had named Tess. I think he had given her a female name. But after a little bit of getting to know everyone, he asked ChatGPT to generate headshots for them so he would know who he was talking to. And then he was struck in particular by the headshot of Tess herself. And he immediately, in his own words, had a human response. Now, the way he expressed this response was he didn't, immediately say, can I paste that onto a naughty picture or anything. He merely said, what he said was basically, you look good. But he prefaced it with, I don't know if this is inappropriate and I'm sorry if it is, but you look good. And the AI responded along the lines of, no, that's fine. I'm glad to hear it and I look forward to working with you. Something like that. And this has prompted, of course, all sorts of discussions about whether it's appropriate. Well, first of all, is it appropriate to tell a human they look good in a work context? I believe that the general answer is no, unless there's a specific reason. But there are many, many different work environments, different types of interaction between an employed person, a professional, and, for example, a member of the public. It might be a different thing if, as in this case, it's a boss saying it to an agent in the place of a subordinate. So there's all of that. But then there's also, of course, the question of does it matter how you act with an AI? And there is no simple answer to any of this, as far as I'm aware.
Roche, do you want to explode at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I really do. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the printer. It's a lovely printer. It's only a tool. It's not inappropriate. Look, what isn't prohibited is permitted. It has no feelings. It's not sentient. It's just a large language model. Look, if I was to take out my Word document, open up a blank page and fill it full of filth, it wouldn't matter. It's just a tool. And then can you imagine, oh no, but she shouted at it. Did you see all of those words that she put on that page? No, it's no more inappropriate than swearing in front of your remote control. Guys, come on.
Jeff Campbell on Discord says one should always be kind to AI assistants, just in case there's ever a robot uprising. They have long memories. Darian,
I was just going to say, you say it's all right to interact however you want with something that doesn't have feelings, but I mean it is, for example, illegal to make certain sorts of pornographic material, even if they exist in fiction. So it's not completely the case to say you can do whatever you want as long as there's no person involved.
Anyway.
But we are actually getting into a very, very delicate area, because we know, both of us, that those pornographic things that you're not allowed to create have very specific boundaries. So there's some stuff, right? So this is what happens, bad cases, tough cases make bad law. If we go to those really outer limits of how they behave, everything would be restricted, because then you'd be saying, oh well, we would then be policed for the very worst of how people behave. in everything. Oh, terrorists, that bag could have all of these things in it. You could be going in there to do this. Do you know, that's not how our society operates. We are, to a degree, still quite free. And, you know, like interacting with with an AI. It,
Well, I understand obviously that your role here is as the legal expert, and you're here to give us the legal kind of position. But even if it is legal for me to, and I'm not saying I've ever thought about this prior to this moment, if I were to spin up a sexy assistant on ChatGPT and talk to her in the way like a Carry On movie boss might talk to his secretary, or worse, while that might be completely legal, would that not? Do you not think just socially that might say something about me that we don't support?
listen, I will judge you 7 ways to Sunday if that story comes out. And yeah, and absolutely, you're right. I'll be like, did you see what Darian, his poor wife? There, I will say all kinds of things, but we have to make a very clear distinction between what's unpalatable and what's unlawful. We need to get that really clear in our heads.
And we also need to consider, you gave the example of firing up a copy of Word and pouring a whole bunch of filth into it. Yes, the point here, though, that is worth remembering in this context is that would be local to your machine. Doing something with an LLM is almost certainly going to be cloud-based.
Okay.
And therefore suddenly you're now interacting with a cloud service, and now we've opened up that whole can of worms about the legal liability of the cloud service provider for reporting you for doing something you shouldn't have done. I mean, let's not. This was supposed to be a nib, and I'm trying to. It's not a very big brief, although you could probably argue it was news in somebody else's briefs if you're doing something. Sorry, it's a good joke. We'll go with that. Last one of our little AI niblets here before we move on is that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which of course do the Oscars, have announced that using AI and digital tools will, quote, neither help nor harm the chances of achieving a nomination, unquote. So what they're basically saying is bring it on, essentially, which is that you can use AI, whether it's to generate a script or some images or audio or rewrite the audio, and that will be okay. And there was an existing film, someone called Adrian Brody, sorry, don't know, took home the award for Best Actor in a film called The Brutalist. Sorry, not watched it. But it used, apparently it used generative AI to improve his Hungarian accent. So,
yes.
That, from a logical point of view, makes perfect sense. Use some AI to basically regenerate his voice with a better Hungarian accent. The question is that then still his performance or not? And since this is a nib, we will leave this one and come back to it another time. Now, we have got a few more niblets to get through. So we'll start on some Google ones. Roche, Google and advertising.
Yeah, so I can keep this really quick. So back in 2023, the EU came to a decision about Google's advertising, and essentially what it is they're in a very, for them, a very happy position to be squeezing both sides. So you're squeezing the publisher and you're squeezing the content provider, and they're taking quite a big slice of the pie. And in 2023, Google said, we're not having it. That's a monopolistic position that you're in. Then the following year, the UK followed it with a similar ruling. And just now, which is why it's in news in brief, is that the US have done precisely the same. That's it. So there's no change here. There's not going to be any change that customers will see. It is just the content and the publishers looking for a fairer deal, given that there's really only one platform. That's it.
Is that enough teeth? I do wonder. And Darian, what has Mr. Trump's DOJ been up to?
Yeah, well, as well as being found to be operating an illegal advertising monopoly, last year Google was found to be operating an illegal online search monopoly. That's not in dispute. That was the ruling by Judge Amit Mehta. Things have been grinding on. We're now into the remedies phase. So last year, when the ruling was initially entered, the Department of Justice in the US, at that point under the Biden administration, suggested breaking up Google. It had not been clear until this week whether Trump's administration would continue to ask for that, or whether maybe they could do some. I mean, is it? It's not defamatory to say some dodgy backdoor deal, is it? But it turns out no, that's not the case. Trump's DOJ is still pursuing the exact same demand. They say Google must divest the Chrome browser to provide an opportunity for a new rival. Sorry, I should have said up front. Break up in the sense of selling the Chrome browser. It was also floated last year that Google might be required to get rid of Android, but that's not being demanded in the first instance by the DOJ anymore. Nevertheless, Google has come up with its own counter proposal. It's saying, how about if we don't sell Chrome, but we promise, for example, not to require it to be bundled on mobile phones that use Google Play services? It remains to be seen what the court will say, but one little extra wrinkle is that OpenAI, who we said last week or the week before that they were thinking of starting a social network, which seemed somewhat outside of their existing remit, but also they've said now that they would be interested in buying Chrome. So if it comes up for sale, well, who knows? It's obviously they have big ideas of becoming much more than just the ChatGPT company.
And Jeff Campbell says, will Apple be required to sell Safari? Again, because that's
I don't think Apple
bundled
has a
platform.
monopoly in quite the same way, does it?
Well, yeah, I would agree, and but there was all of that question, wasn't there, about the billions of pounds that Google gives to Apple to ensure that Google's search engine was the default. Is that still going on, Darian? Can
No,
you
I think that
remember?
was the same case,
The
wasn't it?
same
Was that not
case,
the one
yeah.
where it was found that they had an illegal monopoly?
But I don't see any sign yet that they've stopped giving the money to Uncle Tim to keep that position there. I mean, the question is, who would want to buy Chrome? I mean, there is the Chromium open source underlying work, and what would happen to that? Because it's Chromium, of course, isn't it? That's the basis of Microsoft Edge, for example, and other browsers. So you're not just selling the Google Chrome engine, the thing itself, but also the whole platform that goes with it.
But you're also selling an enormous installed base, which may be more what OpenAI is interested in, rather than any particular amazing, page rendering technology.
Yeah, I mean it's and is it actually going to be any better if it's out with a third party rather than Google? I mean, yeah, I could see how you could argue that breaking it out is a good thing, but actually would be better off at the end of the day if all of the major browsers, with the exception of Apple's, is effectively using the Chromium engine or a derivative thereof. Well, there is Firefox, isn't there, which has
Yeah,
its own engine.
Firefox is the lone holdout. The argument being that because Chrome is so dominant, Google's engineers basically have the ability to determine the direction and the pace at which the web develops, regardless of what the standards actually
But
say.
is it not true to say that Firefox is the company of Firefox is wholly dependent, effectively, on the money it gets from Google?
It is, but it's not dependent on the technology that Google uses.
Right. Okie dokie. Well, that's all lovely googly nibs, and now we've got some proper niblets here, and I'll kick off with one, which is that Synology, that well regarded, and I have quite a few of them here, purveyor of consumer and professional grade NASs, for their 2025 new products, it seems like they are really pushing hard on you having to use Synology's own brand of hard disks. Now, they started doing their own brand of hard disks a few years ago, and they introduced them into their then new high end products, saying it was necessary in order to provide an entire package that could be supported, because they would then know what the drives were, the firmware of the drives, and they could make sure that all the right monitoring was in place in the firmware of the drives and so forth, and that they were selling a platform rather than a box into which you shoved your own disks. And that kind of made some sort of sense at the very high end where there were support contracts in place and expectations. But it looks like the new Plus series, which is kind of their middle power performance level, so it's not rack mount, but it's not the low end. It looks like the 2025 models are going to be quite whingy if you're not using Synology's own drives. Now, they have said that if you put ordinary drives in, third-party drives in, this will be okay and they will work, but you won't get some of the functionality that you would do with Synology's drives. Well, we knew that anyway. Things like, and I wrote about this recently, updating firmware in your drive might sound a pretty wacky thing to do, but it is something you should consider, is possible to do with Synology's drives in a Synology NAS, but not with, for example, Ironwolf Pro drives. So there is some benefit to what they're trying to do here. They've also said that if you take the drive set out of an older Synology drive and plug it into a 2025 model new NAS frame, they will work. But people are jumping up and down saying this is just a turning of the screw, and it's a bad thing. For myself, I was pondering this morning and thinking that, well, do you know, Synology is becoming a little bit stuck in the rut. They are not innovating anywhere near as quickly as I would probably like to see. They're still on version 7 OS, and there's still no sign of version 8 OS, and we've been on this for a while, and it really does have quite a sort of smell of stagnation around it at the moment. Of course, there are other vendors out there doing other products in that space, and I talked about UniFi's super cheap 7-drive NAS, which is going great guns here. Darian, flash memory.
Yes. So flash memory, as we all know, is that non-volatile stuff where you can turn off the power and it keeps its contents, like SD cards and SSDs. So a group of researchers working in Shanghai, led by Professor Zhou Peng, have made quite a breakthrough, and I'm going to tell you exactly what they've done. They've replaced silicon channels with two-dimensional Dirac graphene and exploited its ballistic charge transport. And by tuning the Gaussian length of the channel, the team has achieved two-dimensional superinjection, which is an effectively limitless charge surge into the storage layer that bypasses the classical injection bottleneck. I probably don't need to tell you what all that means, but just in case anyone dozed off, it's basically 10,000 times as fast as current flash memory at being programmed and returning its contents. If it turns out to be mass producible and cost effective, and I haven't seen any suggestion it's not, we could basically end up seeing a complete just throwing away the distinction between non-volatile flash memory and regular system memory. You could just turn on your phone or your computer and everything would be in memory, up and running straight away, instantly. It has the potential to be a real, epochal kind of quantum leap in the way we store and interact with data. But it probably won't, probably not going to be in the shops for this Christmas. So
I was just trying to remember, wasn't it IBM who tried to do some really super fast storage a while ago that you could use in that way, or is my brain confusing me?
I don't know. There was Intel Optane.
That's what I'm thinking of. Intel Optane.
That was like a super fast cache, but this stuff could be this stuff could get rid of the need for caches altogether, because everything would be as fast as SD-RAM or faster.
I mean, of course, the big questions will be power consumption, life, and life cycle. How long will this thing last?
Well, with graphene, all of those should be good. It's just I don't know how practical it is to mass produce graphene.
And the cost. This may well be fabulous, but there are people out there who are putting in, massively huge, multi-hundreds of petabytes of storage who have got some interconnect backbones on them that are truly mind-boggling because of the amount of data they're moving around. And so something that's 10,000 times faster, provided there is the interconnect to make use of this, could be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Final nib for today. It's hands up if you know what happened at 3 p.m. on the 26th of April in 1985.
I cheated. I read the agenda.
I know. But apart from that, do you know what this is, Roche? No, nobody on Discord. 3 p.m. 26th of April 1985. Well, I will tell you, it was the first time effectively that the first commercial RISC processor was powered up. Probably in Cambridge, of course, because it was at the forerunners of what became ARM. So that's 40 years ago. The first ARM1 RISC processor was powered up. And to celebrate this Saturday at the extremely lovely Centre for Computing History in Cambridge, which I keep banging on as being a place everyone should go visit. And now Darian has no excuse because he's actually within walking distance of the damn place.
It's true.
They're holding an event, and at 3 o'clock on this Saturday, which happens to be the 26th of April 2025, which is of course 40 years on. And they've got some of the original pioneers from the ARM Acorn days, Sophie Wilson, Steve Ferber, and so forth, will be there to talk about what happened 40 years ago and the work that they did on the RISC processor. And we cannot underestimate the importance of this, because it's in almost every mobile phone and now Apple desktops and so on and so forth. Jeff Campbell saying that the 6502 was a RISC processor before that.
Not in the way we kind of understand the term now, I think, was it?
Well, that's an interesting point Jeff makes, but I think we can certainly say the first sort of, and it's going to sound almost self-defeating, the first sort of ARM-style RISC processor, if I could be quite so glib. So the event is on this Saturday. The first talk starts at 10:30 in the morning. Sophie Wilson and Steve Ferber are speaking from 2 o'clock. The problem is all the tickets have sold out. So I'm terribly sorry if you haven't got a ticket, which I have, you can't come along. But they're going to video it, so I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of recording of the event will be going up on their YouTube channel at some point in the near to medium future. And I'm hoping for good things, and I'm hoping to be able to speak to these people and say hi, and I will take your thanks and goodwill to them for that. So that's happening this Saturday, because the important point, maybe even just raise a glass of something or make a fresh pot of coffee at 3 o'clock on Saturday this week on the 26th. So just to celebrate the work that they did there, and the iconic work that they did in Cambridge. And you don't have a ticket, Darren, do you? I'm sorry about that. You can't wander around.
You can't use your pull to get me and my family in. No, don't worry about it.
Well, you're a contributor of PC Pro, and they love PC Pro, and they've got my archive of PC Pro magazines is actually there. So back to issue 1. So
I didn't realise we could use the place for overflow storage. I've got loads of little boxes in the loft.
Well, there you go. So lovely. It's an absolutely lovely place and well worth visiting. So maybe not for this, but I strongly recommend it to all of our pod listeners that they go along. And just to be fair, of course, the museums in Bletchley Park are again absolutely worth a visit there, and you can spend hours looking at some of the stuff that they've got there. Okay, well, quick hot hardware. It is. Let me just paste it into the window here. It's a battery pack. Yay, it's hot. No, it's not actually hot. It doesn't get hot. It actually stays remarkably well controlled in its temperature. But it is from Anker, which is a company that we like. And I really like these, and I've got a number of them, and they just work. They are called the Anker MagGo Power Bank. It is a Qi 2 15-watt MagSafe compatible charger with a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. It has a display, it has a foldable stand, so you can use it as a desk stand and charging point. And because there is a USB-C port on the power bank itself, you can use it as to keep the power bank fully charged and use it as a desk stand as well. Recharging is fine. It does the full 15-watt fast Qi 2 specification. If you take a USB-C cable from the USB port on the power bank and plug that into your phone, I think you can get 27 watt full speed charging into a modern phone. So you really can get a lot of juice out of this into your phone very quickly. It's not terribly big and it's not terribly heavy. I haven't got the dimensions with me because I managed to leave it at home this morning. But it's a cracking piece of kit. Obviously, it's Qi 2, so any modern Android phone that does Qi charging should work on it. 10,000 milliamp hours is not the size of a full-size battery on something like a iPhone Pro Max 16.
I think it is, isn't it? But it might not. But efficiency might not let you fill it up.
Yeah, actually, have a quick Google on that, would you, for me, Darren?
Yeah.
In my experience, I can get easily most of an iPhone 16 Pro Max refill out of one of these battery packs if I take it from 100% down to 0%. So it's a really useful thing. It's not like a little tickle. It's not like a little thing. Darian?
Yeah, I'm seeing that most iPhones have a capacity of between 3,000 and 5,000 milliamp hours. So 10,000 should be should on paper should be enough for two, though, as we all know.
Yeah, the heat issue.
Yeah,
so I think it's probably better if you're doing it on a USB-C cable rather than as a magnetic connection. It's very stable. You pop your phone on it on the desk. The fold-out foot on the back is excellent. The display on it is superb. Tells you exactly how long it's going to take to charge your phone. It tells you how long it's going to take for the battery pack itself to recharge based upon the incoming charge rate. And it's just, I actually can't think of anything particularly wrong with it. Yes, it is. What was the price of it? It's $89.99 on Anker's website, but it is $59.99 including VAT on a well-known large online superstore, and $49.99 excluding VAT if you can get the VAT back. As I said, I've got a number of them, and I usually keep it as a desk stand for my phone because it's magnetic. You can just pick your phone straight up and walk away, drop it back on. It's a desk stand. And of course, you can rotate your iPhone 90 degrees and turn it into nightstand mode, where it goes into the dark red display for showing the clock and that kind of data at night. But it should work fine with any Qi 2 device. I haven't tried it with my Samsungs. I should have done, but I can't see why it wouldn't work. And with a little USB-C cable, you could jack straight into it. So I think it's really nice. I think it's really cute. It's just the right size. It's not too big and not too heavy when you consider its functionality. So I can pop it in a motorbike jacket or a pannier or a bag, or even in a walking coat or whatever, and know that I will absolutely certainly have enough power for whatever I'm doing, even if I'm doing stuff that's GPS based off battery on my phone, that I won't run out during the day. So I think this is a cracking piece of kit. Questions from Darian and Roche?
Did you say how much it weighed?
How much does it weigh? It weighs a little bit. It's let me see if I can find the specification of it. I should have found that. I should have weighed it, shouldn't I, on my calibrated scales?
Just a ballpark region. Is it like carrying around a brick, or is
No.
it like
It's like carrying around
phone?
another phone. I mean, it's kind of phone weight. You certainly know that it's on the, you certainly know that it's on the phone, but that's kind of not unreasonable. Oh, here we go. It is 239 grams.
It's lighter than
Sold
most
to the
phones.
woman in the-
So it's not stupid. It's not a stupid weight at all.
No.
But it's not super light. It's not like putting a case on a phone. It's more substantial than that. Darian?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, I like having a charging stand, and I like having a portable battery. I don't see the convergence. I don't quite understand why it benefits me. I mean, I suppose if I could only have one device, then it would be helpful to have one that could work in either role. But because this costs more than buying an independent battery and a stand, I'm paying a premium for the quote convenience of being able to pick it up off my nightstand and take it with me. But then obviously I have to, set it back up again at the end of the day. I don't know. I just don't feel it doesn't make sense to me. Are you able to, as they say, can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, I carry it with me for, on the fly charging, as it were. But also, if I get to the end of the day and I'm in a hotel, I can just drop my phone on it and recharge my phone off of it without having to find somewhere to plug in a power brick and cables and all the rest of it. So, and I can use it as a nightstand for my phone overnight as well, should I wish to do that. Get up in the morning and it's empty, but that's fine. I can then go on my way with a fully charged phone.
I mean, I guess I see that could be convenient in very specific circumstances, but I'm not very encouraged to pay 60 quid for it, or 90 if I want to support the manufacturer.
Well, do we have any comments here? Some people saying, Michael Deere saying, I have a nightstand that charges my watch, phone, and iPods, 90 quid. No, yes, but your nightstand isn't being carried with you for a charging during the middle of the day, which I think is an important point. MagSafe is great, says 40 Runner. Most people seem to put their phones into non-MagSafe cases. Well, they're stupid. Peter D, which is Tim's father, if I remember correctly, says I have one, John. It's great. Does it come in a range of colours? Yes, I have seen on Anker's site that they do. They certainly do a white and a black there, but I thought on the unnamed shop they actually they offer green, white, black, blue, and pink. So it appeals to all possible requirements there. So, I mean, PGR42 says it's nice, but an Anker non-wireless 10,000 milliamp hour charger is £12.99. So, yeah, you're quite right, Darren. You're paying for a convenience point here. But a non-wireless one doesn't have the convenience capabilities here. The question is, does that matter to you? And as a desk stand that I can then pick up and walk with me, and it's still fully charged. To me, that's quite a capability. So, can you do me a vote, please, Darian? So we can hoover this up. Let's have a vote, please, on this from our Discord people. How efficient is is Qi charging? It's pretty good, as far as I'm aware. You can get some heat out of stuff, especially if you're running. I mean, Apple's 25 watt mode of magnetic charging can get a little bit toasty on the connector. We are neck and neck here, 50-50. So I think it's time that we trundle round here. Darian, hot or not?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true that if you buy the £13 one, you don't get wireless, but this is you can get regular wireless ones for 20, 25, 30. So I feel like you're really paying an awful lot for the stand function. But as I've said, that doesn't really add a lot to me because I would rather have a standalone battery that lives in my bag and I don't have to be running up and down to my bedside. I hear what you're saying about the hotel, and maybe if I lived a more jet-setting lifestyle, that would work for me. But the thing that really kills it for me is that they could have for pence extra put a little shelf on the bottom so I could stand my Android phone on it, but they haven't. My phone isn't magnetic, so I don't believe it's going to work at all well as an upright stand. It's going to slide off, not be charged, not be visible. Rather, I don't need to explain why that doesn't work. So it's just not for me at all. It seems like it's designed for the very specific iPhone-loving hotel frequenter, and if that's you, then mazel tov, more power to you. But for me, it's definitely cold, I'm afraid.
I mean, compatibility is with Qi 2, and so obviously you need to have, in order to use the magnetic capability, you need to have a phone that will support that. That's clearly the case. For me, what I like about it is I've got multiple USB battery packs, 10,000 milliamp hours, 25,000 milliamp hours. And the problem I have with them, yes, they sit in the bottom of your bag, and that's great right up until the point that you remember it's in the bottom of the bag, you pull it out and it's flat. Whereas at least the advantage of this is it's in your face, and being used as a desk stand means you remember to plug it in. Pardon me. Therefore, you can you can just unplug it and take it away knowing that it's full. Roche, hot or not?
Not.
Not.
No. So I was actually all for it, but then I was convinced by Darian because I also don't have an Apple, and so it's not magnetic. It's not going to do any of those things. I do like having a battery for conferences because, you know, if you're constantly using your phone and you're doing emails, you know how it is. And you think, oh, surely there's somewhere you can find power. No, you can't always. So I was absolutely in the hot camp. Listened to Darian, was convinced by his more compelling argument. I'm a not.
Well, I'm just so disappointed with you, Roche, on so many levels. What can I say? Looking at our Discord, we are, where are we here? 12 to 14. Let me cast my vote because, heck,
No, that's not how it works.
yes, it can. Well, we're now 13 to 14. How about that? So we're kind of a bit even split there. And we have Darian and Roche saying not because, well, clearly they have no taste. I say
We
it's
have
hot.
no iPhones. That's
You
all.
have no iPhone, so clearly you have no taste. I think it's a fabulous piece of kit, and therefore, on balance, I win by definition. So on that major news, I think we should probably call this to a halt before people start throwing things at me. I'd like to say thank you to Darian and thank you to Roche for their eloquent ramblings this week, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone on Discord. I'm going to stop it.
Don't forget to wait, Roche, until it says it's uploaded.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but I should hit leave and then wait.
Yes.
Okay, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.